everyone. From me, Brent Graham, Thursday night, 9 o'clock, time for the Handicap Rugby Chat That Matters. And this, the last show of 2021. We've got some Heineken Cup rugby to have a look at, and we look forward to getting stuck into that. Good week last week, I must say, overall for the boys, in particular the guy on your screen at the moment. I got a bit greedy in the last game. Unfortunately, went for a points bet in the final game, which fell short. So I gave away a lot of the weekend's profits. But if you followed the best bet, Connacht -5.5, you were home and hosed going into the last 15 minutes or so of that game. We do have Thoughts on Sports joining us. He's just battling with his camera at the moment, but we'll bring him in as soon as we can. But let's introduce, still looking rather clean-cut, I must admit. And after a nice relaxing day there in Centurion, it's Brendan Wessels, a.k.a. the conductor. Brendan, good to see you, mate.
How's it, Brent? Yeah, thanks very much. Always good to join you on the show. And it's good to be back on the show after a very successful weekend last weekend. It was one of my better ones with that Northampton points coming in nice and easily versus Racing. Luckily, Racing really rocked up, and the Finn Russell show was phenomenal. Connacht, really closed our side front say. Ulster's brought it in well with a plus. So it was a very, very nice weekend. Bouncing off a very, weekend where I fired into a lot of early prices into a weekend now where I haven't put one bet down. And I can't remember for many years being on a Thursday night where I haven't put one bet down for the rugby. So I know you tweeted you're looking for something for your best bet of the weekend. And like many kids on December 25th, morning of December 25th, they're going to be a bit disappointed with the outcome, I think. So, we'll try to go through it and work through it. To me, this is an incredibly tricky weekend. There's a lot of factors at play. One being COVID is wreaking havoc. The Leinster versus Montpellier game has been called off, which is so farcical considering Leinster were happy to go and play. They had no more further positive cases in their squad. They did have some positive cases, but these guys were isolated and stuff like that. So they were prepared to travel, but nevertheless, the game's been cancelled. And I expect a couple more games as well to be cancelled this weekend. I know the clubs are meeting tonight to discuss. The French government has issued a statement to say that no travelers from the UK can enter France. And I assume that would work vice versa for French coming to the UK. So they're meeting tonight to discuss that, but that could potentially mean probably 50% of the games will be off in the Champions Cup and Challenge Cup. There are obviously a couple of games that are obviously, Welsh versus British teams, and hopefully those will go ahead. But it's wreaking havoc in that respect, and it's also taking into account, some teams have lost their first Champions Cup or Challenge Cup fixture, which may mean they may rather look to their local leagues and put the rest of the effort in there. So it's a very, very tricky weekend. You're going to have your head on a swivel and expect a lot of late team news. If you look at that Wasp versus Munster game, I think it was probably about 1 o'clock before the game the kickoff was at 5. That I think 5 Wasp players were pulled out. So, it also makes me nervous to make a big pre-bets. You could have potentially a lot of guys pulling out.
So the conductor reading between the lines, or maybe not reading between the lines, but definitely perhaps tread cautiously. But we'll see if our other guest has got any strong fancies. Before we introduce him, though, just welcome to the boys in the live chat, Mark and Kevin. Good to have you guys along for the ride for our final show of 2021. And now we welcome Thoughts on Sports. Neil, good to have you back on the show.
No, thanks very much, Brent. A couple of technical difficulties delayed me. I think I was 90 seconds late to the show. But once again, good things come to those who wait. So I'm hoping to tip a couple of crackers for the boys in the show. But I think conductor hit it spot on there. Got to be very careful this weekend. There are going to be a couple of late team news, a couple of players pulling out who are in contact. I think players will have one eye on the domestic leagues, which kick off, which resume next weekend. So I think that will be the focus. So that also has me leaning mostly towards the big pluses this weekend, just as I feel like the motivation won't be there once the stronger sides have done the business. I feel like they could take their foot off the pedal there, but keen to get stuck into the action.
Excellent. Well, let's start with you then for the first game. We've got Ulster against Saints, and Ulster here minus 14.5 is the line I've got.
Yeah, Brent, for me, straight off the bat, I think this is a bit of an overreaction from the bookmakers. I guarantee you that if Ulster hadn't gone away to France and beaten Clermont, but once again, that was a bit of an outlier because Clermont were struck by some COVID cases and were missing some very crucial first-choice players. So if they hadn't gone away to Clermont and obviously got a good victory there, and if Saints hadn't gone absolutely mauled by Finn Russell and co in what was quite a close fixture in terms of the books, I think it was a near choice 2-point handicap here and there. So if those two outliers for me didn't happen, this game would be closer to a 7 or 8 point spread. So I just look at this. I'm getting a 14.5. Yes, Dan Bigger's not playing, but Courtney Law's back, especially after the embarrassment that Saints faced last weekend at home at Franklin's Gardens. They're going to keep this close. Ulster aren't one of those sides which tend to beat these big spreads. So yeah, for me, I'm quite happy to open up and take Saints plus 15. I've seen plus 15.5, even plus 16.5 at 8 to 10. So I'm quite happy to open my doors and take that first up.
Yeah, just having a quick glance around, I see 14.5, probably about the lowest you'll have to take. Well, you would take Ulster at the 14.5, but there's 15.5 and 16.5 about Saints on the plus. Conductor, what are you thinking on this opener? Cool. Conductor, you're on mute. I think you've got yourself muted.
Sorry.
Oh, there we go.
Sorry. No, I was just saying I'm very much aligned with what Neil said there in terms of his view on Ulster and both Northampton Saints. I think Ulster played well, but against a Clermont team that were missing, a number of frontline players. I mean, you take a guy like George Mawala, Matsushima, Lopez, these are sort of first line players, and they were missing, these guys, and that was really late to kick off. So, also boosted by the fact that Dwayne Vermeulen was able to be drafted in so late. They've got a very, handy loose trio and Marcus Ray and Nick Timoney. John Cooney, like I said last week, he's so deadly with the boots. He's Mr. Reliable 3-pointer. They've got a more than handy back line. Rob Balakoon is obviously injured, but they've brought in some very handy replacements for them. It's a strong Ulster side. Ulster are very good at home. I think they've won 11 out of 14 Heineken Cup games at home, so very, very strong home record, and they've got a very good record against English teams. I think they've only lost like one of the last 5 or 6 against English teams at home. That being said, I think the Saints team is better than in previous years. I think they were just blown away by a very, very classy Racing Metro side. Finn Russell was just phenomenal on the night. John Imhoff, phenomenal. It was just, they just really were up for the game, and I think Saints just couldn't keep up with that class. I won't be looking at the plus here. I'd be looking at Saints points. As Neil says, Courtney Laws is back. It's a good. I think Wood at 8, and their hooker is back as well. So there's some very, very handy infusion of players into the Northampton side. So I'll hope for maybe a points line of about 15, 16 points. I think with Saints. Andre Piardi is the referee, and he's generally done well by me in terms of overs. He's generally quite a positive guy. He lets the game flow a little bit. So whenever I've looked at an overs with them, it's generally come in. So I like the Saints overs there. If I can get that.
Right. Well, let's stick with you for the next game. What I'm going to do in the background, not so much in the background, but on my other monitor here, when you both aligned on a game or one of you are particularly strong, I'm going to work out a bit of an ACCA and just see what it comes in. I'm going to take it at player bets. So we may not always get, obviously the line's very bookmaker to bookmaker, but I'm going to stick in the plus 14.5 here that the Northampton Saints at Ulster. Let's stick with you, Conductor. Go to the next one. I know this was a good win for us last week. We were on Bath. I know the boys were anything from plus over 9.5 Bath points. You could get over 7.5 at Sunbet. It was one of my better bets of the weekend. Certainly got me going nicely on a weekend where I was focusing on my poker. But what do you think here? Bath plus 13.5 against La Rochelle.
Yeah, Brent, as you say, the Bath did well for us last weekend. I think you got 7.5 hours and 9.5. I think a lot of the guys were between 7 and 9.5, and they came in nicely. I was quite impressed with Bath's performance. To me, they starting to get, just get a little bit better than how they've started off the season. It's just a bit of a poor blow for them. They lost Will Muir to a sighting incident, which looked absolutely ridiculous. He was jumping in the air, and as he came down, he made contact with Van der Vlier's face, and he's been banned for 4 weeks, which is so ridiculous. So it's a bit of a blow for them. But nevertheless, I really like Bath at home here. This is something I've been lining up. I'm trying to. I'll probably look at the Bath plus. The only thing I don't like is Ronan O'Gara from La Rochelle says I'm massively targeting this game because they want to play well in Europe. But nevertheless, I think La Rochelle will win here. But I like the plus. It'll be a 1 o'clock kickoff in Bath. The guys will be Christmas on the Christmas beers from about 10 o'clock. It'll be a festive crowd. It'll be slightly chilly. The Rec is a notoriously tough place to play. It's a very claustrophobic ground. The crowd is on you. The pitch can often be a little bit choppy and a bit messy and muddy, which may not suit La Rochelle. But they've got guys like Skelton. He worries me. His power is phenomenal. But I like the Bath plus. A guy like Sam Underhill gets a good couple of turnovers, and the crowd gets behind them. I think Bath should cover here.
Right, Bath on the plus there. Well, let's see if we get any agreement there or any opposition from Neil.
No, Brent, I think I'm pretty much aligned with the conductor there. I also have one of those holy grail rules of betting, and that's you never take a French side on the minus away from home. And in this case, we're getting a double digit. Let's put it lightly, we're getting a massive spread for a home side here. Yeah, Bath have been absolutely shambolic, but you must remember that they've still outperformed where the bookmakers are placing them. For instance, last weekend against Leinster, spread of 32.5. They covered that comfortably. They had a points line of 7.5, 9.5 in some places, and we just looked at that and knew it was absolutely ridiculous. Yes, this Bath side's defense is appalling, but they still managed to cross the whitewash a couple of times. And I'm also, I've mentioned it before, I'm a big believer in a good news story throughout the weeks. And Bath have signaled their intentions. They've announced Johan van Graan as the head coach for next year. I know that there are a couple of individuals who've appeared on the show who aren't always the biggest fan, but he's a coach with pedigree. He's coached Munster to some pretty impressive results. He was the Springbok forwards coach at the 2015 World Cup, and he's also been involved in the Bulls setup in the early 2010s. So he's got enough experience behind his back. And then once again, they've announced Brent Jansen van Rensburg as the defense coach, who has done a pretty good job at the Sharks. So those are two massive statements of intent. And I know that the club is going to be buzzing this week. The crowd's going to really get behind the home side here, and I'm just getting a 13.5 for a home side. And put it this way, if this handicap loses, it'll be one where I'll nod my head to the books and I'll be like, well played. But for me, this is a couple of points too heavy here, so I'm more than happy to take quite a big strike on a Bath plus 13.5. I just feel that La Rochelle have been quite dreadful away from home in the top 14. They've lost 9 on the bounce in that competition away from home. So it just proves, yes, I know the reffing generally favors the home side in the top 14, but I'm getting a double-digit spread. I expect La Rochelle to sort of squeak it towards the death, but I expect a bit of a different atmosphere at the Rec. So plus 13.5, I'm more than happy to snap that up.
Right, I see Mark in the live chat. He's very much aligned with Henrik on Van Graan, but I'm kind of with you there. I've been quite impressed with Munster over the last few years, so I think it is probably quite a good signing for Bath. And let's see if they'll lift their game. I can tell you guys, 2 matches in, and we've already got 2 in the ACCA, so looking pretty good on that side so far. But we'll stick with Neil, and we got Sale minus 8.5 against Clermont.
Yeah, Brent, I think this is another strong fancy for me. Clermont last week, just to my understanding, this hasn't been released by press or anything, but I guess that those players who were out last weekend with COVID will still be out just due to the various 10 to 14 day protocols in play. So quietly hoping they're out. And then once again, French sides away from home, traveling up to Manchester. Manchester is just not one of those places where you really get too enthusiastic to go play. They're going to get stuck in a hotel with a rusted bathroom and a this and a that. Manchester isn't the most sort of eye-pleasing of places. And then you got, on top of that, you got to front up to the Sale pack. those Curry brothers have been targeting this fixture. They're going to be absolutely all over the Clermont forwards at the breakdown here. Yes, Clermont might have a bit of danger out wide in Rucker and Pennell, but for me, there's nothing that Sale can't handle there, and I expect that Sale to win well here and really give a big statement of intent going into the English Premiership. So for me, this is a couple of points too light. I do expect Clermont to probably know that this fixture isn't one where they will get a positive result. And a bet that I would be looking for is if I can get a good, maybe an under 17.5 Clermont to take unders on that.
And Neil, do you think there's any chance Clermont have already almost, after last week, thrown in the towel perhaps mentally on this competition?
Oh, definitely, especially with the way the Champions Cup is structured. If you don't win your home games, you're pretty much out of the competition. So they will have that in the back of their mind. Once again, the money for these French sides gets made in the top 14. That's where the owners get pleased. That's where the checkbooks get signed, and that's where the players get signed for next season. So they're going to have one eye on the following week. So for me, this isn't a big fixture for them. Yes, there'll be a bit of pride on the line, but I mean, a coach will always say that in a press review. So I think Sale will be absolutely licking their lips here at a single-digit handicap, and I'll be all over this Sale minus.
Well, we're going to get conductor's opinion now. Just to mention on Sale, last week I had quite a nice double. I think it was Connacht over 23.5 points, Sale over 22.5 points. Sale scored 21 points in about 30 minutes, and they could not score another point in the game. It was absolutely heartbreaking to see that double fail. And I mean, at the end, they nearly scored as well. I think it could have gone either way from the TMO. But Sale, I felt they could have just kicked on a bit last week, at least had another one score for me. But Brendan, let me tell you, I've already put this one in the ACCA. So you're going to have to give me a pretty strong case against Sale if I'm going to take it out. But I can't see you opposing thoughts on sports on this one.
Yeah, Brent, like I said, this is a weekend. You need to be careful, because I mean, this makes a difference whether you're going to buy your kids their presents at Hamleys or at hospice. So just tread carefully with your ACCAs there, Brent. But no, I'm going to definitely agree with Neil on this one. I think his points that he raised are 100%. Clermont sitting mid-table in top 14. They lost that home game. I'd be very surprised. Obviously missing a lot of guys through COVID. I'd be very surprised if they sent guys like Rucker or Pinot over. I can see them sending a mix of an A, B, and C team. We're going to be chilly in Manchester. Not the best. Like Neil says, not the nicest place to go and play in winter. So, yeah, I'm big on Sale here. I think that Sale pack is going to do the business. Like you say, it was just disappointing the way they played that second half. They really should have performed a bit better. The Sale coach did come out and said, look, it was very poor. They didn't get the bonus point. I think they will be looking for a bonus point in this game because they actually didn't collect it last weekend. Clermont, for me, I just don't think they're going to be up for this. French teams away, I like opposing them. And they've got a big, next week they go away to Brive. They then have a big game against Toulouse at home. So I think they'll rather be casting an eye on that. I also think that the French teams, if they're allowed to travel, will be a bit tentative with COVID. Once again, will they send the best players, knowing that if they get COVID, they'll have to quarantine when they come back? These are all things that need to be juggled. That's why I'm happy to take Sale on the minus. Try and find the best minus you can there. Also, I think Neil did discuss it. I don't know if he mentioned it. Discussed it earlier in the week. Halftime full time. It's one of my favorite bets. I don't really like that format of bets, but halftime full time here, full time on Sale might be a good bet as well. I think you can get 6.5 and 7 to 10 in some places.
Right, and interesting. I mean, we'll obviously get the best bets at the end of the show, but I'm getting the sense that this could be well contending for the newsletter best bet. We're on a pretty good run. I haven't actually looked, but I think we're 5 or 6 winning weeks in a row. So hoping to finish the year off. It'll also be the last newsletter tomorrow. If you're not subscribed yet, go down below the video. You can get a link to sign up for our newsletter there. Right. Let's move on then, conductor. We're going to stay with you. And here we got a big handicap. It's a Racing, who I agree with, so impressive last week. They are minus 28.5 against Ospreys. And I mean, there's probably little doubt they're going to win. The question is, can they beat the cap?
Right. So, to be honest, when I look at this, what I probably would rather look at, as opposed to the cap, I'd probably look at the points line for Ospreys. I imagine here again, you probably get about 9.5 for Ospreys. And I mean, they're not the worst side on earth. I mean, they beat Ulster a couple of weeks ago. They went 4 out of 5 in the URC. Look, Racing are blockbuster, but their defense can also be very, very poor at times, as we've seen many times in the top 14. So my best bet would be Ospreys points over. The Kiwi 10 is more than good enough to slot some good threes here. They've got some very handy players, so yeah, I think it's a good Ospreys side. So I'll happily take, if they send a decent side, I'll happily take Ospreys overs here. The handicap, it is. I mean, if Ospreys get 15, Racing have to score heaps, but yeah, I'm always worried about the Teddy Tomar factor and Bakatawa. Will these guys even play? I'm not sure, because they might say, well, look, we're not playing against a top tier side, so should we rest a couple of guys? I wouldn't back Racing to cover this, but I'd rather take Ospreys over.
Ospreys over then. Obviously, you make a good point about the team selection. I did have some discussion with Pete, who gets our newsletter last week. He was asking, how do you give opinions before team selection? And I guess at the end of the day, it's the same reason the bookies give odds. It gives you an opportunity to try and outthink almost, think what the other teams are thinking and perhaps make your move accordingly. And I must say, in last week's ACCA, which I took from a lot of your selections on the show, all of the lines actually moved in our favor, even though unfortunately it fell just short in the end with one of the bets. But I certainly quite enjoy trying to have a look at what sort of mindset the teams are in. And I mean, yeah, let's face it, I don't enjoy the COVID thing, but that throws another whole dimension in there as well. But let's see if Neil's going to come out firing in this one, or if this handicap is big enough to put him off.
Yeah, Brent, this is one of those fixtures where if the handicap was at 36.5, if it was at 24.5, you would just nod your head to the bookmakers and just be like, fair play. I don't know what Racing are going to put out. I don't know what Ospreys are going to put out. But I do like the angle that the conductor's taking there. And if I can get a 13.5 Ospreys, I'd absolutely snap up that overs there, because that obviously puts the Racing line at about 42.5. So that seems reasonable. But I would expect it to come out at about 14.5 for Ospreys. But still, I'd still take overs there. But if I had to have a stab at the handicap, I'd probably take the Ospreys plus here. The reason being, just Ospreys have got enough quality, got enough Welsh internationals to travel to a fast-paced pitch in Racing and knock up a few points themselves. And Racing are just one of those sides where full of mavericks, and these just mavericks love scoring tries, but at the same time they're quite prone to letting it slip towards the latter stages of the fixture. They got other things to worry about, top 14 to worry about, kids at home to worry about, social images to worry about. You know what I mean? So I'm getting a 28.5. That's a massive spread. These Racing players, they aren't going to be too up for this fixture. So I can see them sort of slipping. I wouldn't be surprised to see them being down, say, like 14-5 at halftime, and then getting a bit of a tongue lashing from the coach, with a bit of a threaten for Finn Russell for a skin folds test on Monday morning for him to kick him into gear. So there's going to be a motivation there, but just not enough to cover what is close to a 30-point spread. So happy to a tentative pick on Ospreys plus, but we'll look for an Ospreys over 13.5 here.
Right. Well, I'm not including anything there in the ACCA because we don't have a points line yet for the Ospreys overs. And I don't think the confidence is as high on that one as on some of the other games. So, Neil, we're going to stay with you. This kickoff, I think, is at exactly the same time, if I'm not mistaken, as the Ospreys game. 7:30 South African time. And it's Glasgow here, plus 7.5 against Exeter.
Brent, it's the classic 7.5 half-point handicap, the one that sort of toils in your mind. If it was a 6.5, massively firm opinion. And I think I just checked now, Sunbet still have 6.5 for this game.
There's 6.5 at Sunbet.
Yeah, it's just one of those where I'm quite strong on the minus here, but when you see that 7.5, it tends to, in terms of how rugby union scored, it tends to sort of put your mind in a little bit of doubt. But I'll speak as if the game's 6.5. I'm more than happy to take this Chiefs minus, not the most confident play of the weekend, but I just can't take this Glasgow side on the plus, as impressive as they have been against the spreads in recent weeks. The Chiefs are really starting to hit their straps and looking quite a mean outfit, and they're really sort of bringing back that Exeter of old where they properly shut down oppositions. Yes, it was a pretty poor Montpellier side which were resting a couple of superstars, but I was incredibly impressed with how they went down 6 points in the first half, and they just sort of turned into that sort of Chiefs mode. They really ground out ground out the performance, didn't look for any flashy players, just took it to the Montpellier pack, blew them off the park, scoring sort of those forward dominant set piece based tries. And before they knew it, they'd already racked up 42 points to 6. That's it. Chiefs done and dusted, sorted, handicaps paid and in the bank. So I look at the game like that. I just don't see this Glasgow side competing enough at the set piece with Chiefs. Granted that both sides do go full strength. So I think that Rob Baxter is one of those coaches who hates to sort of give any sort of half measures to the opposition. So I do expect him to name a full strength side here. So yeah, I'm quite happy to take that Chiefs -6.5, and I do expect them to sort of take that competition, take the performance into sort of the back end of the competition here and push towards bring it into the Premiership as well.
Right, Brendan, what are we going to do? Are you gonna rubber stamp this one? Are we going to stick this one in the ACCA?
Yeah, Brent, this is an interesting one. Yeah, sure. So I mean, you're going to see 80 minutes of Gray. I'm not talking about Christian Gray from 50 Shades of Black. I'm talking about Richie versus his brother Johnny. So yeah, so some good lineups there. Yeah, as Neil says, I think Exeter starting to hit their straps now. They've just been boosted over the last couple of weeks. I think guys wrote them a bit off against Saracens. They really showed the pundits and their detractors wrong when they beat a very solid Saracens side at Sandy Park. Had a very solid win against Montpellier. To me, they just, like Neil says, hitting their straps and just playing good rugby now. I've been impressed with this Glasgow side. They are definitely getting better. They've made some good signings. Guys like Jack Dempsey, is showing the value. Josh McKay is coming along. But this, to me, Exeter is still one of the better teams around. And I'll happily take, I'd probably try and look, as Neil says, I'd probably try and look within that converted try. That +7.5, it is a bit of a worry. But that converted try, if we can get -6.5, I'll happily take that. There's just so much quality in that Exeter side, and that they've had key guys come back in the last 1 or 2 weeks, which have made a big difference. Luke Cowan-Dickey being one of them. He to me is such a talisman for that Exeter forward pack. So yeah, I really like that the minus there, but I think Exeter will get the job done.
Right, well, we're going to throw the 7.5 into the accumulator, because obviously it's one thing when you take an accumulator. Unless the bookies are offering alternative handicaps, sometimes you have to take a cap that's a point or two higher or lower than what you want. But definitely from a straight out point of view, you can look around and you can get 6.5 there, the -6.5 on Exeter. Conductor, we're going to stay with you. Munster, -27.5. Munster delivered quite a nice win for me last week. I think I was high on their points. And as you say, plenty of team news in that game played a bit of havoc. But here they're massive favourites against a cost side that, well, They actually cost me last week by keeping Harlequins under 25.5 points. I took a big bet to end the weekend. I was going well, and I thought, let's really end this in style, and it didn't happen. But now they're away, and do you expect them to sort of just give in here and let Munster run away with us?
Yeah, Brent. Initially, when I looked at this cap and I saw that it was so big, whenever these sort of big caps come out, in anything over 25.5, I started immediately thinking, so looking at the plus, and then maybe looking at Custra points overs, because once again the points line will be low. I did see the picks from the Munster the Munster training presentation this week. It looks like a lot of the guys are back. I'm not sure how fit they'll be after 10 days in isolation. Some of them have had longer periods in isolation, but we should have a far more quality Munster team against Custra. I have been chatting to a couple of the French guys. Their opinion is that Custra also in a very weak side, filled with guys who aren't full-time top 14 players. So there may be kids, academy players, like reserves, guys that aren't really their top players at Custra 2 months. And if that is the case, this could be a bit of a blowout. I'd probably lean towards the minus, but a very small minus for me.
It's interesting you say that. I've noticed with some of those games as well where they send weaker teams, they sometimes start a little bit better than you would expect.
Yeah.
And at halftime, not even be contingent, but more often than not, it does blow out at some stage. So often that might be something to watch from an in-play perspective, is perhaps the youngsters sort of step up for the first 30, 35 minutes and then get blown away. Neil, what do you think of this one?
Sure, Brent. I'm even surprised the bookmakers priced this one up, to be honest. It's just one of those fixtures where you just have absolutely no idea what's going to happen. I think the bookmakers sort of feel like that as well. I can make a firm case for Munster to cover the spread, and that's, if I had a gun to my head, that's probably where I'd go as well. Also, just because once again you just can't trust these French sides away from home, and I just feel like Cust especially losing to Harlequins at home last weekend, so their competition's done. So their Champions Cup is done. No need to sort of think any further there. So I have a strong suspicion that they will send the kids, but these French clubs are just so volatile. You just never know what they're going to do. You don't know who's paying them money or what. So I do believe that they will send a fairly weakened side. And if that is the case, I expect the handicap to sort of drift to that 33, 34 point margin. But then again, Munster know that this should be a regulation result for them. And the kids who played for the half of the kids who played for Munster last weekend were awfully impressive. So I also wouldn't be surprised to see Munster name a slightly weakened side on the back of having a couple of big fixtures going forward into the new year and just trying to keep players fresh and give players time off and manage workload and all of that. So at 27.5, I think can I see Cust scoring 10 points? Yes. Munster scoring sort of that 38 points. Yeah. So I probably do think Munster will cover, but just not a lot of confidence from my side.
Right, yeah. If anything, I must say I'd also be leaning towards the minus here. I've just got a feeling that one could be a little bit of a blowout. Well, let's move on to the next game, Neil. And we've got Leicester, who have been so impressive this season. They're minus 15.5 against a Connacht side that certainly did the business for us last week, although they took quite late in the game to really stretch clear. What do you think of this handicap, 15.5?
Yeah, it's one of those fixtures, again, I think this is pretty well priced. Probably if I had to pinpoint a fixture which I think is best priced for the weekend, it's this fixture. But I'll still go for a Leicester minus here, but with sort of that medium confidence type strike. Leicester have obviously been phenomenal in the Premiership so far, yet to lose a game. Last weekend, they started at that sort of 4-5 point favourites. I think they came in a point or two, but then when team news came out, Leicester obviously were missing one or two players, drifted out to 8.5, and they still managed to win away in France. So that's just a testament to sort of that feel-good factor currently happening in the Leicester camp at the moment. But I think they will be rocked with a bit of news that Ellis Genge isn't signing on for next season. He's returning back to his hometown in Bristol for the Bristol Bears. So for me, as a supporter of Bristol, it's massively exciting. That is a huge loss, obviously losing their leader, and he's been an immense for them this season. But Connacht, I just look at this, obviously giving a bit of a spank out to Stade Francais last weekend. I think that they will come with a bit of motivation, because if they can sneak a bonus point loss here, they will stay in the hunt in the competition. But Leicester, I just look at that forward pack and that set piece, and I just can't see them conceding or giving too much ground to Connacht. And Connacht do tend to struggle against these big packs in the competition. They love a bit of a fast-paced game where they can release their backs out wide. So a bit of a tentative strike on the Leicester minus 15.5 here for me, Brent. But it's one of those fixtures where I'll be happy to sit from the sidelines and not get too involved.
Yeah, it should be quite a good game to watch, I think, as well. Brendan, you got anything firm for us on this one?
Yeah, Brent says I've been toing and froing with regards to my thoughts on this game. As Neil says, this Leicester side is becoming quite scary under Steve Borthwick. I think Aled Walters, the guy that was the conditioning coach for the Springboks in the 2019 World Cup, he's showing his value there, and the guys are absolutely fit and raring to go. The fact that Leicester could rest so many guys, I think they're missing Freddie Stewart, Nadolo, Ben Youngs, Julian Montoya. I think maybe one or two other guys as well, away to the French leading side, and still get a result in Bordeaux. Speaks volumes for where this Leicester Tigers side is. I think I'm massively confident. I think Walford Road is going to be absolutely heaving. It's going to be rocking and rolling. They're unbeaten so far. 15.5 is a big handicap. I've been trying to think. Leicester have a big game away next weekend to Bristol Bears. Will they have one eye on that fixture? Likewise, Connacht also have a big fixture away to Ulster. Will they also have one eye on that fixture? The other thing I have to weigh up is Connacht are terribly unpredictable. They're inconsistent. I mean, they can have a great win against one side and then go and lose to the Dragons at home. It's a tough fixture. I'd probably be leaning. I saw the last time these two played, it was a high-scoring fixture, but I don't expect it to be the same. With guys like Marco van Staden over the ball, you got Henry Liebenberg. He was also rested. Jasper Visser. I just don't see these guys being able to get the kind of go forward ball they need to score points. Like Neil says, they struggle against a big pack. And Andy Friend mentioned that during the midweek conference. He said he knows their more defense is weak, and he knows that's going to get targeted there. So I'd probably take the minus here. I can't overlook this massive monstrosity or monster that Leicester is at the moment. Yeah, they're just too good for me at the moment. I can't oppose them.
Right, I'm going to tentatively put the minus in the acca there at this point. We can always knock a leg or two back. Let's go on to the next game then. The final match that I've got priced up here at any rate. Start Francais, that plus 7.5 against the Bristol Bears. And conductor, as you pour your final drink of the show, I would imagine, we'll get your opinion on this one.
Yeah, Brent, this is a toughie. Yeah, I mean, if you look at the Stade Francais lineup, they've got some more than quality players. Guys like Louis Mape. I mean, they've got some really good players there. And Bristol Bears have been absolutely poor. They had a bye last week because of the Scarlets COVID setup. So that game was cancelled. They are going to be rested for this game. With now that my mind has gone a bit blank. Sorry, the Fijian centre for Bristol Bears, he's back, and he's such Semi Randrangea. He's such an influential guy on that team. He's absolutely. I don't think talismanic begins to describe his effect on the team. I think Piers O'Connor and him work so well together. He gives confidence to other players. I think Purdy will probably switch back to wing. But nevertheless, it's difficult. South France have lost their game. They're languishing towards the bottom of the league. They may once again play a weakened team. This would be a no bet for me until I can see team sheets. I'd probably tentatively go Bears minus because I just think they've had the break. I think they will want to build momentum for next week going into Tigers. They won't want to have a bad result. Because they know Tigers are going to come like an absolute wrecking ball with Miley Cyrus, saddling that thing coming up to Ashton Gate next weekend. So they'll want some momentum. I think this is a game that will give it to them if they're allowed to travel to South Francais, obviously.
Right, Neil, are you going to give us anything firm on this one, or is it also wait for team selection for you?
No, Brent, just before I get into the game, I do hope you're keeping a spreadsheet of all the conductors' comments from the show this year, because you can really make that into a proper novel and distribute to those less fortunate this Christmas.
Those less fortunate. I like that.
But yeah, getting into the fixture, it's a tough one. Stade Francais, absolutely awful side at the moment. It's not really a side you want to get behind, but it's just one of those fixtures where I know that there will be a French referee for this game. You're getting a more than a converted try for a French side at home. Bristol, they got the Tigers next weekend, and just I hope that there are no bookmakers listening in, but that's a fixture I'm most targeting next weekend. I'm hoping for the best possible Bristol plus. I think that they will win at home against Ashton Gate next weekend. Teams just don't win too many on the bounce. The Tigers have had a fantastic run, but that must end. Feel good factor back at Bristol, so I think that they'll win next weekend. So I'm hoping for a 4.5, 5.5 plus. I'll be all over that. Back to the fixture. English sides always struggle away in France. It's just one of those teams where you saw with Harlequins, they just struggle to get going. The 50-50 calls just don't go their way. There'll be a couple of knock-ons. So Stade Francais with a plus 7.5. I'm more than happy to snap that up, and I just hope that they don't disappoint me and send the kids out because their competition's done after last week's humiliation against Connacht.
Okay, so let's let me throw in tentatively the plus 7.5. I'll throw that in, and let's have a look before we get into our best bets. I'll just take this down as well. Let's just have a quick run through of this ACCA. Let's have a look here. We've got Ulster, Northampton. We got the Northampton. We got the Northampton on the plus there. We got Bath on the plus. We got Sales Sharks on the minus. We got Exeter Chiefs on the minus. We've got Leicester on the minus, which is also a bit of a tentative one. And then finally, Stade Francais there on the plus. Now let's have a look at the matter of interest. That works out to a pretty impressive 45.78 to 1. So I'll probably remove one or two of those, and we'll we'll have the ACCA for the newsletter tomorrow morning. But anyway, it's a nice way to play, particularly if you don't have any strong fancies. You can throw a few into an ACCA and see what happens. But gents, let's move on though to the best bets of the weekend. Unless there's anything, let me ask you first of all, Neil, I know they haven't priced the Challenge Cup up yet, but anything else, even in another sport, we should be looking for this weekend?
No, not massive fancies. I do follow a bit of cricket, so I've taken under 470 in the Australia first innings. Reason being is I expect, so the way the fixtures worked is obviously with these day-night games, the teams want to chuck the opposition in under lights in that last session. So with the way Australia are batting, I worked it out. So they need another 260 or 250, and it's a bit of a difficult pitch to score quite quickly on, as seen. So they have to score more than 3.5 for the rest of the innings. So I think that is probably just stretching it. So I wouldn't be surprised to see them declare. And this is if it goes well for Australia, not counting in the fact that England can snare a couple of early wickets tomorrow morning. So yeah, so I think that's a good bet, because I expect them to declare sort of around tea time tomorrow, stick England in under the lights with that pink ball moving around the park. So that's a small little fancy there. Once again, my stakes are significantly lower in cricket. I prefer my bets on the big momentum sports. So that's for me. And then just tucking into my best bets of the weekend. Bath. Actually, so I know it hurts me to say it, but I'm going to be backing Bath as one of the best bets once again. But so plus 13.5, I think that's a cracker. Sell minus 8.5. I do expect them to cover quite comfortably at home. And then I do like Stade Francais plus 8.5, but that's also team use dependent. That's going in with both teams going full strength.
Excellent, Neil. Well, I've got to tell you, as you say, your cricket stakes might be smaller, but your argument there was bloody strong. And I watched quite a bit of that game, quite a bit of, the first day. And I mean, Australia really battled early on. There was every chance they could have got bowled out cheaply. And they really fought through. But that pink ball, and I mean, even before the sort of nighttime session, the pink ball was bloody difficult to play, even in those early sessions. So I really like that bet. And I'm going to definitely be following you on that one. I didn't think I'd come out of a rugby show with a really strong cricket fancy, but that's exactly what's happened here. Conductor, anything from you in other sports? Anything, and then obviously your best bets in the rugger?
Yeah, Brent, I took a bit of a strike on England at 2.5 to 1, and I thought I put a small cheeky bet on it, and obviously once Australia won the toss, I just knew how this bet was going, and then obviously doing some work around the house, and I just hear the commentary in the background about David Warner cutting loose, and I just don't think England have got the mongrel in them to face up to this Aussie side, even missing Pat Cummins to another ludicrous COVID case because he was eating in the same 24 kilometer radius as somebody that coughed, and it's just so ridiculous.
Don't get me started. Started. If you follow me on Twitter, you'll know my feelings.
Not the strongest Aussie side, so I thought England might just do something. But yeah, other than that, it's not too much fancy on anything else. I'm hoping we get a bit of rugby this weekend. In terms of my best bets, I very much agree with Neil. Sale minus, I'll probably take Bath plus. I'm going to oppose him a little bit on the Bristol game. I'm actually really liking Bristol minus now. I see it's Andrew Brace as the referee. He'd probably referee more towards the English style, as opposed to the South Francais. I think South Francais might just roll out kids with an eye on the league, because obviously there is relegation top 14, so that's quite serious for them. I also see there's two games we've skipped, or that I don't.
Oh, is it? I just didn't have betting yet.
Scarlets versus Bordeaux. I don't know if that'll go ahead with the French stuff, but Harlequins Cardiff will probably go ahead. There isn't any lines on that, but Cardiff, obviously with all their quarantine, they'll probably send in another very weakened side. I don't think they'll change many. So this could be absolute. If the line is anything below 30, I'll probably look at Harlequins in the minus. They can run sides ragged, so I'll probably look at that. But yeah, my best bet's very similar to Neil. We're just going to differ on the Bristol Bears game, and yeah, then as I said, I like the. I'll take a bit of overs in the Ospreys game. I think that's just too high. I think Ospreys will get at least 12 or 13 points.
Excellent. Well, gents, thanks very much. Thanks to you both for tonight, but also for your contributions over the year. It's been great, and we'll say goodbye to all the boys in the live chat as well. It's been great having their contributions. I'm looking forward to taking a little bit of a break. I'll still be betting, of course, and looking for any opportunities while I'm away on holiday. Perhaps squeeze a quick poker game or something in. But we'll be back probably mid-January with the handicap, and at that stage we'll be building towards the Six Nations. I'm hoping Super Rugby as well will probably be getting started around then. And, of course, we're going to have things like the United Rugby Championships and Heineken Championships.
And Curry Cup as well in 3 weeks.
And the Curry Cup as well, yes. Of course, we've got that to look forward to as well. So thanks, everyone. Thanks for watching the Handicap Rugby Chat That Matters. We'll see you in mid-January. Have a great festive season.
Thanks, guys.